Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravarakacharya Asadhara Sadhu Shri Sriman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Grangya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatya De Sadharana Om Agyana Timanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vasakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapa Truvyascha Kripa Sinu Vyevacha Patiranam Bhavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shadvaita Gadadhar Shivastiti Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 18, Perfection of Renunciation, text number 20. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamabhyam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnanam vidi sattvakam Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamabhyam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnanam vidi satvikam Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamabhyam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnanam vidi satvikam Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamabhyam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnanam vidi satvikam Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamabhyam ikshate Avibhaktam vibhakteshu jnanam vidhi sattvikam. Ladies. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamavyam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam vidhi sattvikam. Sarvabhuteshu, and all living entities, yena, by which, ekam, one, bhavam, situation, avyayam, imperishable, ikshate, one sees, avibhaktam, undivided, vibhakteshu, and the numberless divided. Tat, that, jnanam, knowledge, vidhi, know, sattvikam, in the mode of goodness. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all of the entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Please repeat. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all of the entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Prabhupada's purport. A person who sees one spirit, soul, and every living being, whether a demigod, human being, animal, bird, beast, aquatic, or plant, possesses knowledge in the mode of goodness. In all living entities, one spirit soul is there, although they have different bodies in terms of their previous work. As described in the 7th chapter, the manifestation of the living force in every body is due to the superior nature of the Supreme Lord. Thus, to see that one superior nature that living force in every body is to see in the mode of goodness. That living energy is imperishable, although the bodies are perishable. Differences are perceived in terms of the body because there are many forms of material existence, conditioned life. The living force appears to be divided. Such impersonal knowledge is an aspect of self-realization. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam bhavamavyam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnana vidhi sattvikam. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature, seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Purcharane Nirvishesha Shnivadi Paskyadyade Satarne. In Bhagavad Gita, there are two aspects of knowledge. One is knowledge of the self, which Krishna has explained at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, that the self, the soul, is eternal, and the body that the soul is in is only temporary. And knowledge of the Supreme Soul is the second part of knowledge. That is, the eternal self has a relationship with the Supreme Eternal Self. And the process of devotional service is the process by which that original relationship is revived. Although the soul eternally has a relationship with the Supreme Self, but that relationship is now not fully manifested. In the material world, the soul is desiring, And because of its desires, Krishna arranges through the material nature so the soul is put into different material conditions, manifested as different material bodies. And thus, Krishna says, Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jangunan karna guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Thus the living entities follow the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to their association with these modes, and thus they meet with both good and evil amongst various species. Therefore, in the mode of goodness, one can see that there's a soul, and he's in a body which is like a car. Ishvara sarvabhutanam, hrideshe arjuna tishtati, brahmayan sarvabhutani, yantra rudani maya. The living entities are seated as on a machine made of the material nature. Therefore, Krishna suggests surrender unto him in all respects, and by his grace one can obtain the eternal peace and the transcendental abode. In other words, everyone is a soul, and within everyone is the super soul. But not everyone wants to reestablish the relationship with the super soul by surrendering unto his instructions. And therefore they are given different material conditions to suffer or enjoy, or mainly to suffer. But the soul who comes to the platform of surrendering to the super soul somewhat, Chanakya Pandit says, Matrivat paradareshu, paradvareshu lostravat, atmavat sarvabhuteshu, yapashati sapanditaha. That just an ordinary learned person in the mode of goodness, he sees matrivat paradareshu. He sees that all women except for his wife to be just like his mother. In other words, the desire to exploit the material nature is diminished. In the mode of passion, we want to enjoy. And paradvareshu losravat. In the mode of ignorance, we think we're the proprietor. So in the mode of goodness, one's desire to dominate the material nature is reduced to a large degree. And therefore one can be restricted in one's sense enjoyment. And therefore, yakpachati sarvabhuteshu yena, is actually matrivat paradareshu paradvareshu lostravat atmavat sarvabhuteshu, and therefore one can see all living entities to be just like oneself. If one is thinking oneself to be the proprietor of something, then of course one has something to lose in the material world. If we think with this body, and we think that those things in connection with the body belong to us, then naturally we'll be possessive. We'll have this feeling that I'm gaining something or I'm losing something. Actually, we're gaining illusion, and we're losing our Krishna consciousness by such a consciousness. One cannot understand that unless one is actually thinking about Krishna. Because if one is thinking about Krishna, one can feel transcendental happiness. And therefore one feels one has actually gained something. Of course, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, when one attains this, that is an actual consciousness of Krishna, yakparamate chitam, nirudam yoga sevaya yatra trivatmanatmanam pashanatmani tushati, sukham atyantikam yatat buddhi grayam atendriyam veti yatra sarvaveti Yatro paramate chitam nirudos yoga sevaya Yatra chaivatmanam atmam pashanamani tushiti. Sukham adyantikam yat tad buddhi grayam atendriyam. Veti yatra chaivayam stitas chalati tatvataha. Yam lava chapalam lavam magnite nadikam tata. Yasmin situ nudukena guruna pi vichalyate. Tam vidyadikasam yogam viyogam yogasam gitaha. That state of perfection is called trance or samadhi, when one's mind is completely restrained from all material mental activities by the practice of yoga. This is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in that self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. Upon gaining this, one thinks that there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a consciousness, one is never disturbed in spite of the greatest difficulty. In other words, when we give up this hankering and this lamentation, when we give up, we'll give up discriminating people according to their material bodies. Indeed, in this material world, inevitably, according to one's material situation, there'll be so many friends and enemies. But this has nothing to do with reality, the reality of the soul. The soul is trapped by the three modes of material nature, and therefore he takes different roles in the material world. Sometimes it's someone's friend, sometimes it's someone's enemy, but that actually doesn't change the soul. Nor is the soul who has an enemy or a friend, nor is the soul actually being affected by his so-called friends and enemies. The soul only actually becomes affected, really, when he becomes conscious of Krishna. Then his original nature is revived, that is Satchitananda, full of bliss and full of knowledge eternally. Otherwise, the soul is more or less sometimes asleep and sometimes more asleep. But when the soul wakes up, then he can actually experience his real nature. And then one can understand that everyone in the material world is more or less asleep under the three modes, and according to the modes of nature one is acquired, one is being forced to act in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of passion or in the mode of goodness. But ultimately the soul is only the passenger, and the actual doer is the material nature, under the direction of the Supreme Person. Therefore one can give up this idea that friends and enemies, because everything is being carried out by Krishna through his material nature. Of course, the soul, if he acts under the modes of nature, he becomes entangled. But one who thinks, this is my friend or this is my enemy, and forgets about the super soul who's directing the wanderings. In other words, nothing can happen to anyone unless Krishna sanctions it. When the cow was being beaten, when the Dharma was being beaten by the Shudra in the dress of a king, and Parikshit Maharaj asked who did it, the cow wouldn't respond. Because ultimately, he had to place the blame upon Krishna. Because Krishna is the doer. Nothing happens without Krishna's sanction. Of course, it's not that Krishna wanted the Shudra to beat on the cow, but Krishna sanctioned it, otherwise we wouldn't have the Srimad Bhagavatam. Ultimately, the Shudra, Kali, would have to get his reward, but ultimately the Dharma understood that Krishna had some plan, and therefore he was put in such a difficult position. Therefore, we should not forget that everyone is the spirit soul, and that within everyone's heart is the Supreme Soul. And this is a theme of the Bhagavad Gita, throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihastani Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshana. That the learned and gentle Brahmin, the learned sages by virtue of true knowledge, the humble sages by virtue of true knowledge, see with an equal vision the learned and gentle Brahman, the cow, the dog, and the dog eater. Because that verse doesn't stand alone. It's not that theoretically we just walk around and we think that the dog eater, the Brahman, the elephant, they're all the same, and therefore let me embrace the elephant, let me embrace the dog, let me embrace the Brahman, let me embrace the dog eater, because they're all the same. Externally, they're not all the same, but to get to see the soul within the body requires qualification. At least theoretically, we can understand that there's a soul, and that there's a super soul, and that we should try to wake up the soul by helping them become Krishna conscious. So that's theoretical knowledge, and that's perfection of the knowledge. But before that verse, Krishna said, Tad buddhiyas, tad atmanas, tad nishtas, tad parayanaha, katyatnya punar avritim jnanani aduta kalmasha. When one's intelligence, one's mind, one's faith, one's refuge is all fixed in the Supreme, that one becomes cleansed of all misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path to self-realization. In other words, when we're actually fixed in Krishna's mission, for us, we're supposed to see all living entities as Krishna's eternal servant. And therefore we're trying to wake them up, not to get bhakti points for ourselves. It's not that in the spiritual world there's a scoreboard and we get bhakti points. And our team against the other team. No, we're doing things because it's Krishna's gain. As Krishna's servant, we're acting for Krishna's pleasure, for his gain. And he wants to see that the souls become happy and peaceful and progressive by waking up to their Krishna consciousness, their eternal relation with Krishna. So if we try to wake up other souls to their relation with Krishna, by telling about Krishna, then Krishna becomes pleased. But it's not our gain. It's not that we'll go back to the spiritual world, and everyone who we made into a devotee, they become part of our team. They're eternally indebted to us. That's not the way it works. No, whatever we do here is simply for Krishna's pleasure. Whatever gain is there is for Krishna's gain. And if there's any loss, I mean, Krishna doesn't lose, but it's not our loss. We have nothing to gain here and nothing to lose. And if we actually see like that, then we can be fixed in real devotional service, not just externally performing our activities, but more or less also unconsciously, even the process of devotional service. Thinking this is my devotee, this is my friend devotee, this is my enemy devotee, this is a good devotee, this is really a demon devotee. This is a dog, I'm so happy I'm not a dog. This is an elephant, I wish I could ride on it. One has to see some kind of, with transcendental vision. And the only way of doing that is to utilize these relationships that we have, if not the energy themselves in Krishna's service. It's not enough just to utilize the energy in Krishna's service, which is good. We should also try and utilize our relationships in Krishna's service. Not that we're friendly and therefore everyone likes us. And we think, oh, everyone likes me, so I'm doing a lot of devotional service. No, unless Krishna is the center, how can it be devotional service? If we get everyone to like our false ego, what is the credit? No, to get everyone to like Krishna, that's our credit. Or to get everyone to hate us because we think we're doing our duty, but not having Krishna at the center of the activity, then that's also a waste of time. Tejas Prabhu was in Delhi, and he was very strict with money. And so all the devotees in the temple were complaining to Prabhupada. So Tejas said, but Srila Prabhupada, I'm just following your instructions, trying to please you. He said, making all the devotees disturbed, do you think that's pleasing me? In other words, transcendental discrimination expertise requires some intelligence and some practice. And ultimately, the result should be that we're actually thinking of Krishna as a servant of his servants, and therefore carrying out the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Otherwise, the gap, of course, we're performing sadhana bhakti, we're coming to the classes, we're doing so many things, but ultimately we have to arrive at that conclusion when we're doing activities. Otherwise, it's really not pure devotional service, it's devotional service mixed with all kinds of other conceptions. And therefore we don't get the actual fruit that we're looking for, which is to become conscious of Krishna. So first we have to give up the idea that we're the proprietor, then we have to give up the idea that we're independent actors, then we have to take shelter of the instructions of Krishna, coming into succession, then we have to change our attitude by following the instructions to do it to please Krishna. Then, if we follow those steps and Krishna is pleased, then Krishna will reveal himself to us, and then we'll understand what it actually means to become conscious of Krishna. And if we think, now I'm conscious of Krishna, my mission is successful, then we don't know what consciousness of Krishna is either, because we have to become eternally conscious of Krishna, become completely dedicated to his service, then we can find actual peace and happiness. Otherwise than that, we may, for temporarily, hopefully we get some taste for Krishna consciousness by following the process, but it's not just a moment to moment, it's not just an hour during the day or 5 minutes during the day or 23 hours a day. It's a full dedication to the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, working under the direction of his representatives, coming into succession. Then we can actually begin to understand what real Krishna consciousness is. But in the meantime, the more we become fixed in this knowledge that my mission is to help others become Krishna conscious, to please Krishna, not for my pleasure, but for Krishna's pleasure, then the actual relationship with Krishna is established. And even if we try to help everyone become Krishna conscious, but if it's not for Krishna's pleasure, we won't be very successful in helping really people become Krishna conscious, because how can we help people become Krishna conscious if we're not Krishna conscious? We haven't understood, we can only bring people to a certain level. But if we actually try to please Krishna, that's our idea in mind, without any material gain or anxiety over loss, then we can actually experience something which is different from material consciousness, and we can explain about that to others also, how they can also do something similar. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Yes?
How should we are not this body, but we don't know what the soul is, so, because we don't have realization, so how should we think or meditate on? Just on, is it for this some stage, beginning stage, enough just to know what we are not? Or should we...
No, we know what we are. We know what we are.
Yes, but so,
yes.
We don't have realization, it's just a word.
No, it's not a word. You think you're just a word? Do you think yourself to be just a word? If I come up to you and I hit you and say, why'd you hit me? I said, you're just a word, what's the big deal? You have no realization of yourself? You're not experiencing yourself right now?
Yes, but it could be false ego, I don't know what it is.
Well, it's something at least. Something. But as far as what we are, we're servants of Krishna. That much we should know. So we should serve Krishna, that's all.
But we could still think we are servants of Krishna, but still think that we are this body.
Yes, you may think you're this body, but with some intelligence we can understand we're not the body. Which body are you? The body you walked in here is different from the body you have now. So which body were you? The one that you walked in here with, or this body that you're in now? Which body are you? What about your baby body? What happened to it? Well, we shouldn't stay in illusion. We should try to accept the fact that we're souls, and the work is the soul. If we want to batter around with illusion and mental speculation, we'll never go anywhere. So we should be convinced by Krishna's instruction, Bhagavad Gita, that we're souls and the work is the soul. Then we'll get some benefit of life. But if we want to speculate, then we'll just waste our time. Anything else? Yes.
The work is a soul. Does that mean that we sometimes go through our body? That you deny your body?
Yes, you deny it. You don't eat anymore. You don't sleep anymore. Anyone who offers you pusham, you go, sorry, I'm not this body. Come back to it. No, we do what Krishna wants us to do with the body. That's what it means. We desire to fulfill Krishna's desires. His body is given to us so to utilize in Krishna's service. So that's what we should find out what Krishna wants us to do and then do it. If someone gives you a car to utilize in someone's service, what do? You say, well, I'm not the car, I'm not going to drive this thing. No, you follow whoever gave you the car, you follow their directions, what they want you to do with the car. So if they tell you put gasoline in the car, you don't say, well, I'm not going to do that, I'm not the car. Why should I put gasoline in the car? Yes?
It is said that we, as a soul, we're stationed in the heart.
What's that?
It is said, as a soul, I'm stationed in my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really small. Why? Why in the heart and why so small? Compared to...
Well, you want to be really, really big? You want to be... Why? Because that's the size of the soul. Because that's where everything works from. That's how Krishna has arranged it. He's put, just like why in a car is there a place where there's a driver's seat? Why don't they put the driver in the trunk? Because that's in this body, the uniform of life. That's where Krishna put it, so we can drive this car. Anything else? Yes.
What does that even mean? That soul is so small. If it's not material, is it just some comparison or something? Does that?
No, it's 1/10,000th the size of the tip here in size.
So in spiritual world also.
No, it's what would it make any difference? It's not that Krishna's so big. Well, we're a tiny little cow. Oh, everyone is the same size in the spiritual world. You can be whatever size you want to be there, but everyone is human form, is size, normal size. What's that?
In material world, soul is so small. In spiritual world.
Yeah, it manifests a spiritual body.
And then it's expands.
Yeah, manifests into a spirit. Like Narada Muni has a spiritual body, so he's not so small. He can be whatever size is necessary. Besides that, this material body is really not so big either. It's just our conception. It's practically all space, according to the scientists at least. 99.9% of this, what we think is solid, is actually just space. It's only our conception that it's really big. It's just actually the whole material world is just vibration. It's just vibrating. Originally there was a word, and then when Krishna spoke, then the word manifests itself in different forms. So it's actually this Krishna speaking. Anything else? Thank you very much. Kvala. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.